This is NextGen Nexus, your premier source for next-generation technology insights.
Imagine winning $1 million. Not for inventing some groundbreaking thing, but for figuring out how to teach a machine to think like a human. That's the challenge of the ARC prize competition.
It really highlights just how complex human intelligence is.
It does. And that's what we're diving into today. The world of artificial intelligence, specifically artificial general intelligence, or AGI. We'll also look at how governments are getting involved.
Yeah.
You sent us some articles and research, so let's unpack the most interesting bits.
Sounds good.
First things first, what exactly is AGI and what makes it so different from the AI we already have?
Think of it this way. We have AI that can beat chess champions or write poems. That's impressive, but it's specialized AI. Good at one thing. AGI is about creating machines that can reason, solve problems, and learn across different areas, just like humans do.
So it's like the difference between a calculator that can only do math and a human brain that can learn math, write a novel, and compose a symphony.
Exactly. And that's why the ARC prize is still up for grabs. $1 million is a big incentive, but actually achieving AGI is proving to be incredibly difficult.
One of the articles you shared talked about how progress in AGI has been much slower than in those specialized AI models. Why is that?
Because general intelligence is much harder to replicate. Think about how a lot of AI learns today, especially those large language models like ChatGPT. They're trained through rewards, kind of like training a dog with treats.
So if the AI gives a good answer, it gets a reward. If it makes a mistake, no treat.
Yes, but with complex problems, it's not always clear what the right answer is. For example, training an AI to summarize factual topics means rewarding it for accuracy and penalizing it for any bias or misleading information.
Okay, I'm starting to see the challenge here. How do you even define bias for a machine? That seems pretty subjective.
Exactly. And that's why researchers are looking at new ways to train AI. One of the articles mentions something called tree of thoughts reasoning.
Ooh, that sounds interesting. Tell me more.
It's a fascinating concept. Instead of just rewarding the AI for the final answer, it rewards the AI for the steps in its thinking process. So it's not just about getting the right result, it's about how it got there.
So it's like rewarding a student not just for getting the right answer on a test, but for showing their work and demonstrating a solid understanding of the concepts.
That's a great way to put it. And this is seen as a big step toward more human-like thought processes, which is crucial for true AGI.
Now, one thing that really struck me is how governments are starting to play a bigger role in AI development. You sent over an article about a recent executive order in the US focused on trustworthy AI. What's that all about?
Well, it seems the US government is recognizing the potential impact of AI. They want to ensure that AI is developed responsibly and aligns with societal values.
So they're not just letting the tech companies run wild with this technology.
Right. And it's not just about setting guidelines. The executive order also has a plan to train 500 new AI researchers by 2025.
Wow, 500. Why so many?
It seems like they're trying to tackle two things: the need for more talent in the field and making sure that talent is focused on responsible development. As we get closer to AGI, the ethical considerations become even more important.
That makes a lot of sense. You don't want to rush into creating a superintelligence without thinking through the consequences. This brings up a really interesting question. If AI is being developed with this idea of being trustworthy, does that imply it needs to have values, like human values?
That's a very thought-provoking question, and one that I think we should explore further. But before we go there, maybe we should talk about some of the specific potential risks and ethical concerns around AI.
You're right. That's a good place to pick up next.
So where do we even begin with the potential risks of AI? It feels like something out of a science fiction movie.
I know what you mean. It's easy to get caught up in those robots taking over the world scenarios.
Right. But let's focus on the more immediate, realistic concerns. One that comes up a lot is the potential for job displacement.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
As AI gets more sophisticated, it seems inevitable that some jobs will become automated.
Exactly. Think about fields like manufacturing, transportation, even customer service. AI is already making inroads there.
But doesn't that also mean new jobs will be created in fields like AI development and management? It's not a simple one-for-one replacement, right?
That's a valid point. It's more of a shift than a complete takeover, but the transition could be disruptive and challenging for many workers.
So we need to think about how to prepare people for those new jobs. Retraining programs, education initiatives, things like that.
Absolutely. And it's something that policymakers and business leaders need to be proactive about.
Now, this executive order we talked about, does it address any of these concerns?
Interestingly, yes. It emphasizes the importance of public engagement in shaping AI policy.
So it's not just a top-down approach. They want to hear from the people who will actually be affected by these changes.
Exactly. And that's crucial. AI is going to impact all of us. We need to have a say in how it's developed and used.
Okay, so we've talked about AGI, the challenges of training AI, the potential risks, and the government's role in all of this. But what does it all mean for us? I mean, for people who aren't AI experts or government officials.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? AI is already transforming so many aspects of our lives.
Yeah, even simple things like personalized recommendations on streaming services or spam filters in our email. It's easy to forget that AI is behind all of that.
Exactly. And as AI becomes more sophisticated, its impact is only going to grow.
Yeah.
Think about healthcare, for example. AI is being used to diagnose diseases, develop new treatments, even assist with surgery.
I've heard about that. There are even AI-powered robots that can do incredibly precise surgical procedures. Is that what you mean?
Exactly. And in finance, AI is being used to detect fraud, make investment decisions, provide personalized financial advice.
It's incredible how AI is finding its way into every industry imaginable.
The possibilities are really endless. But as we've discussed, with those possibilities come some very real challenges. We've talked about job displacement, but there are other concerns too.
Like what? What else should we be thinking about?
Well, one of the biggest ones is the potential for bias in AI systems.
Wait, how can a machine be biased? Aren't they supposed to be objective?
That's a common misconception. The problem is if AI is trained on data that reflects existing biases in society, it can actually perpetuate and even amplify those biases.
Oh, I see. So if the data used to train an AI for hiring decisions already contains biases against certain groups of people, the AI might inadvertently learn to discriminate.
Exactly. And that could have serious consequences in all sorts of areas, hiring, lending, even criminal justice. We need to be very careful about the data we use to train these systems.
Makes sense. So it's not enough to just create powerful AI. We also need to make sure it's fair and equitable.
Precisely. And that requires careful consideration, not just of the data, but also the algorithms we use to design these systems. And it brings us back to the importance of diversity in the field of AI. We need people from all backgrounds and perspectives involved in developing and shaping this technology.
So where do we go from here? It feels like we're just at the beginning of this AI revolution. What can we as individuals do to make sure it's a revolution that benefits everyone?
That's a great question, and one that I think each of us needs to consider. But before we get into that, maybe we should circle back to that really interesting question you raised earlier about AI and values.
You mean about whether AI needs to be taught human values in order to be considered trustworthy? I'd love to unpack that a little more. So we've talked about the potential for AI bias and the importance of diversity in its development. But this idea of AI having values, that's a whole other layer, isn't it?
It is. It's a question that philosophers, ethicists, and scientists are all grappling with, and there's no easy answer.
What makes it so tricky?
Well, on the one hand, we want AI to be aligned with our values so that it acts in ways that benefit humanity that don't harm us.
Right. We don't want to create something that ends up turning against us.
Exactly. But on the other hand, we don't want to stifle AI's creativity and potential by imposing our own limitations on it.
I see. So it's a balancing act.
Yeah.
We want AI to be ethical, but we don't want to hold it back from its full potential.
Precisely. And there's a lot of debate about how to achieve that balance. One of the articles you shared mentioned that some researchers are exploring the idea of AI systems that can learn and adapt their values over time.
Learn their values. How does that even work?
The idea is that instead of hard-coding values into an AI, we create systems that can learn from their interactions with the world. So through experience, they develop a sense of what's right and wrong.
That's fascinating, but also a little scary. What if the AI learns values that are different from ours?
That's a valid concern, and it's why a lot of people believe that we need to have safeguards in place.
What kind of safeguards are we talking about?
Well, one idea is to create AI systems that are transparent, so we can understand how they're making decisions, how their thought processes are working.
So if we can see the logic behind the AI's actions, we can identify any potential biases or ethical issues.
Exactly. Another idea is to make AI systems accountable for their actions.
Accountable? How do you hold a machine accountable?
It's complex, but essentially it means building in mechanisms to track the AI's decisions and actions and having ways to address any harm that might be caused.
That makes sense. It's like having laws and regulations for human behavior, but applied to AI.
It's a similar concept, and it's all part of this larger conversation about the ethics of AI, a conversation that's only going to get more important as AI continues to evolve.
It's definitely a lot to think about. We've covered so much in this deep dive, from what AGI is and the challenges of creating it, to the government's role, the potential risks, and now these philosophical questions about AI and values. Where do we go from here? Feels like we're just at the beginning of this AI revolution.
It does feel that way. And the future of AI is full of possibilities, but also a lot of unknowns.
So where do you think the line should be drawn between powerful technology and human control? Is that even a line we can draw?
That's the million-dollar question, and one that I don't think has a single right answer. It's something we all need to be thinking about, debating, and engaging with.
I agree. It's a conversation that needs to involve everyone. So to our listeners, we leave you with this challenge. What role do you think AI should play in our future? How do we ensure that this powerful technology is used for the benefit of all humankind? It's a question worth pondering. And with that, we wrap up our deep dive into AI, AGI, and government action. Thanks for joining us.